The folks at Byron Seeds believe organic requires a different perspective, plan, and approach. Organic isn't simply a different type of product or even a different way of farming. It's a different way of thinking, planning, commitment. It's a different philosophy on how to feed the world. Many won't understand, but the people at Byron Seeds do. We're owned by organic dairy farmers. We not only have the product, but we plan, manage, and execute organic. We speak your language, we share your struggles, and we laud your successes. Organic isn't a way of doing business, it's a community. We learn from each other. We're in this together. We'd be glad to talk cropping plans, management systems, the road to profitability. We understand what you're trying to do. We're farmers just like you. Visit us at byronseeds.net or give us a call at 800-801-3596. And thanks to Byron Seeds. Save yourself some money next spring and improve your soil health naturally with Soil Biotics Soil Boost. This is a dry, raw humic product that is broadcast post-harvest. Soil Boost will work for you throughout the winter months to create a looser soil and improve water infiltration and retention. Soil Boost helps to balance soil pH levels and increase nutrient retention so fewer inputs are needed. Make sure to also ask about new SB Digester Organic 301. This is an organic crop residue digester that is a combination of organic nitrogen and microbials. SB Digester Organic 301 will help break down wet residue and return nutrients to the soil for your next crop. Call the office at 815-929-1752 or inquire at soilbiotics.com.
You're listening to Rooted in Organic Podcast. I'm Mike Klein, and along with Brian Wood, we are sitting down with Daniel Salatin. Daniel Salatin is the operations manager at Polyface Farm. We had Joel Salatin on a couple years ago who gave us an overview, kind of what they do, and now Daniel is going to share with us what you do on a day-to-day basis and dive deep. So thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on the podcast and be here at the Homestead Festival here at Rory's. So for us, I am day-to-day operations manager, as you said, and my role is to train a lot of our staff. We have anywhere from 9 to 11 what we call stewards, and they're 5-month folks. They're with us for 5 months, typically May through September, and we do a lot of training with them. And so our goal is to not just do book training or philosophy training with them, but to really say, okay, you're going to go out, and if you want to go out and farm full time, we want you to experience a for-profit. We're not a college, we don't have endowments, and we're not nonprofit. So we're really about making this work from a financial picture. So getting them totally immersed into a farm business that is for profit and what that looks like. Not only just the daily workflow, but the type of products we're doing, the necessity steps that we're doing, all of the things that go into making a farm profitable on a medium-sized scale. I mean, we're not talking about a hobby farm. We're talking about really paying the bills with farming. And so what does that look like? And that's kind of what we're about. And so we're really big on, yes, we teach. Yes, we come to conferences like this and we share information and whatnot. But we're mainly, the reason that works and the reason people want to learn from us is because we have a profitable for business enterprise farm. And so that's what we do. And we train them on that. We have a growing staff. We want to grow. We ship products now all over the country. So what we're doing on Polyface is we're pasture-based beef, pork, poultry, sheep, rabbits. So poultry is turkeys, meat birds, layers, the whole gamut. And like I said, we have an on-farm store. We deliver. We sell to a few small wholesalers, retail stores, and then also we ship, again, nationwide. but again, it's a pasture-based product that is so the beef is 100% grass-fed, grass-finished. Obviously, the omnivores, the chickens, the pigs, and stuff like that is just supplemented. But the idea is to teach these folks and to show these folks and to show the public too. I mean, we're an open farm. People can come 24/7 to come and visit. So it's a real, it's a high level of inspection, if you will, so that our staff has. I said, listen, when you go to, pick a place, you wanted to go for all your life and kids, the happiest place on earth or whatever you want to say, and you go that sometimes it lives up to its billing, but a lot of times you're left a little disappointed. It's just not quite as awesome as you thought. And so having people, look at our stuff online or see our products or our books or whatever, and they want to come and visit, most people are ready for a little bit of a letdown. And I tell our staff, look, I want our people that come and visit to be completely impressed and it to exceed their expectations. And so it's a high standard, but that's our goal is to, when you come there and you see the animals, you're like, oh, it can't possibly be as nice as it is in the books, or I've heard on, whatever podcasts. It can't possibly be that nice. And when you get there, yeah, we have plenty of bad days. We have oopses. We have mistakes. We have animals that are not perfect. But generally speaking, when you see the grass and the soil and the community of people and the animals enjoying their living spaces, that they are impressed and that they are exceeding those expectations. And so that's what we strive to do, and that's what we strive to teach. And so that as they go on and farm in their own methods in their own places, that they can implement that other places.
Isn't part of showing how a farm works, showing the public that there are some bad days too?
Absolutely. Being transparent. I mean, we have the full transparency there on the farm. Well, it's the appropriate levels, right?
Sure,
and so it's you don't if you have a major storm and a flooding incident or crazy things like that, and you lose 50 chickens, for example, that's not something you put on Instagram, but it is something that we show our students. They're embedded to that level, right? And so that's the level of transparency that we have with them, and we say, okay, this happens, and here's why, and let's learn from it, and what can we take steps to get better. But yeah, we're very much into that transparency plan, absolutely, all the way through.
So I think you call them stewards.
Yes.
Is there a screening? Do they have to go through an application process? Because I'm just picturing somebody saying, I want to start a farm.
Sure. Yeah, that becomes a disaster. No, we have we have a very rigorous application process. It's basically starts in August. Our website opens up an email that's available for like 10 days in August. So it's a very tight window for the following May through September timeframe. So believe it or not, it's coming up here in about 2 months. From where we're sitting today, which is hard to believe. But anyway, and so we get about 100 applicants or so, sometimes a little more, a little less, but somewhere in there. And they go through a written application, a little video question, and then once they make it through the first wave of selections, they'll typically come out to the farm and do a multi-day work together session with other applicants as well, kind of grouped them together. Because we do work in teams, and so it's important they don't just check out by themselves. We want to see them working with a group of people
that are all vying for the same spot.
Yes, exactly.
Can you be nice to somebody who was trying to take the same thing you are?
Exactly. Are you going to put yourself first, or are you going to put somebody else first? Are you going to try to show off and make yourself feel all that, or are you going to step back and say, hey, my character and my desire is going to speak for itself? And so we take about 9 to 11 people, and so we take about a 10% range, and it's a great group. They're amazing people. They love to farm. They love the land, and not all of them go to be farmers. I mean, that's the thing. Like we have, we want to see them involved in the regenerative agriculture space and getting good, healthy food to people. And so, for example, one of those ways is to become a chef. Right. And so we have some people who will do this program and go into actually restaurant trade, or we have an on-farm chef for the summer season. So we have one that's doing that right now that came through our program. One we need mechanics, we need marketers, we need customer service people, we need front of house, back of house, all those things. And so it's really neat to see these people come through, and we don't hire them all by any stretch, but it's interesting to see how they go and place in different places. We have people, we have graduates that are working in, it's a popular online meat distributor. We'll just leave it at that. And she's working in the marketing side of it and in the customer service side, and is done very well in that industry. And so there's just interesting places that people go, but they have the real hands-on experience of the farming as a backdrop to say, okay, I'm working on this customer service issue, or I'm working on this tech issue, or I'm working on this, providing this meal, but I know where it came from, and I know all the things that went into it, and I can provide, the Extreme Ownership book by Jocko talks about leading up and down the chain of command. And so when you know the jobs above and below you, you can do a lot better at pushing that information back up and down the chain. And I think that's really important.
Well, and also just valuing the
Right.
work that is done on the farm. I mean,
Absolutely,
how
sure.
important is that to drive to, like, have some
Sure.
mission almost
Yes.
behind?
Yeah, not to complain about the pricing, not to just being able to understand where it came from and the value. Absolutely, well said. Agree.
In the program, I think you just started to touch on it a little bit, but is there, I'm assuming this isn't how it is, but say they're interested in beef.
Sure.
That's the one area that they're in. Or is it they get
So yeah,
full-
they get a full exposure.
Sure.
We promise that we focus on the poultry side, because the poultry you can see multiple cycles throughout the summer. Beef, if you're only there for 5 months, well, heck, you haven't even seen a calving season. So we offer like basically entry level experience on some of those other animals. Whereas the poultry side, because we do raise a lot of birds, we process a lot of birds, et cetera, out there on the farm. We can genuinely say you can come for a summer, you can learn basically brooding, starting of the chick all the way through the sales and distribution of poultry while you're there for the 5 months. And that makes it really inclusive. And then the other stuff is smattered in around, just basically mixed in as seasonings. But the nice part is with the poultry at this point and where we are in our culture and farming and whatever, it's one of the easiest ways to pay the bills. It's the easiest way to get started, and it's a way that they can really get into farming tomorrow and really get rolling on it. So we really focus on that and let the other stuff fill in around the cracks. And then as they go to graduate, there are ways for them to sometimes there's ways for them to stay on and do different things. So if they're really interested in the cows, as you mentioned, there are sometimes employment opportunities with us or with other people in the area or in this line of work that they can go and jump into that. But at least they've got experience. What we find is a lot of times we don't take people that have had 4 years of college or grew up on a farm or anything. That's not what we need. We just need to see desire and true passion for it. And what happens after 5 months is, you can do anything for 5 months. So if after 3, you're like, this isn't for me, you can still finish strong. And if you get to it and you're like, wow, I thought I loved cows, but I am scared to death of them, for example, and I just don't like cows because I've never had any experience. Well, at least you know that, and you haven't gone and bought a farm or gone and signed up for a farm manager position somewhere or whatever. And you can know that going in, and that's really cool. And so we don't put a lot of stock in what people say they want to do when they come, because until they've had experience with it, they really don't know, and it changes throughout. So it's just cool to be on that journey with them.
So do they vary from maybe some farm experience to absolutely nothing, or do you try to get people that with a clean slate?
No, we'll take anything. But in a group of 11 stewards, we're going to have probably a 50-50 mix of I've never butchered a chicken before to I've butchered plenty, and I grew up on a farm, and I know how to drive a tractor and stuff like that. So, I'm thinking about this current year. Most of this group had actually done some processing and raised a few birds, some backyard, batch of 50, batch of 100, that kind of thing. But again, most of that we're looking for is just an attitude to do well, learn, high character, And it's not we have multiple people who do not come from a farm. They live on not so much a subdivision or a suburbia, but they are not from a farming family. Mm-hmm. And so they're very much a clean slate. I'd say we do struggle with this kind of agriculture and this kind of teaching, unless they're really looking for a change. Like a 4-year ag degree is not something that we're looking for. That would be considered kind of a negative, just because they've been very versed in the conventional methods, which is, again, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you need to learn. But they do have to kind of unlearn a lot of things to going down our method.
Because you're going against kind of everything they've been taught for the last 4 years. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, of course. But,
yes.
But still, you're not fighting nature. You are working with nature instead of trying to kill it.
And one of the biggest things is that our answer is typically not something else. Meaning, if an animal is presenting with a problem, or the pasture is presenting with a problem, our first solution is not a bottle or a bag, and that's typically what you're being taught in conventional agriculture, and or that there's something that you need to do to fix this problem. What happens is that we believe that nature and the creation is very capable of solving its own problems when given the tools or supported in how we can. So instead of trying to control it and manipulate it, like, let's look at how we can, massage it and encourage it. And I think that's kind of the difference between, it's not that I don't want to be involved in the animals or in the land or things like that, but I'm wanting to say, okay, here's what the land's trying to do naturally. How can I be of assistance? How can I come alongside, right? As opposed to, here's what I want, and I'm going to just make it happen, whether I give you an injection or pour something out of a bag or whatever. And so that's kind of what they're having to unlearn. And the idea of letting nature take its course, that cows or chickens or sheep or whatever have been around for thousands of years without our help, and without pharmaceutical help or what have you. And again, am I completely anti-vet? Of course not. But if the average farmer used them as much as we did, there wouldn't be very many, and they wouldn't be doing very well, because we believe truly in nature fixing itself and giving her the tools that that nature needs.
And it's also building up that immunity and all that stuff prior to, you work all on prevention and not treatment.
Correct. So whether it be soil for weed control or plant health, or whether it be for genetic selection or a mineral base. Feed that a mineral that we're giving to the cattle to help them fight off pink eye and whatever other parasites or worms that they're having to deal with. It's not that we don't do anything and it's just completely hands off. It's just very alternative and giving the animal the power to build its immune system, build its gut digestion and whatever to fight off whatever it's dealing with. Exactly.
Do you struggle with pink eye?
We really don't. We use a very aggressive mineral program, kelp, real salt, that kind of stuff. And we spend a lot, like hundreds of times more what the average farm spends on mineral. And we believe that that's very important. And the animal can choose when it needs it, when it doesn't. And then if they don't need it, they're going to pass it, which goes onto the land, which is a great way to to use it that way. So we really don't. And we have a ruthless culling process. So if there's a lot of if a particular cow or whatever has pink eye and ongoing, well, then she goes and becomes a different form of beef. And then we don't have that anymore. So we really don't.
I know how expensive kelp gets. I put a bag out to 50 heifers and I don't think it lasted 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just.
And as that was their first exposure to it.
First exposure.
Oh, yeah. The first week we used to buy some cattle from the sale barn, and when we did that, it was, the first week you're like, we are going to go bankrupt.
And I knew the first bag was going to be like that.
But then they settle, and it comes into the additive, and it's, exactly.
Have you seen over time that your mineral expense has maybe come down from where it was?
Great point. Absolutely. We have noticed I can't speak to know so much the budget or the intake, but what I can say is that when we do rent some properties nearby to run some cattle on, or we've recently purchased a neighboring farm, that was run very conventionally, just like ours was. We've been on our farm for over 60 years, which isn't really that long in the big scheme of things. Cutting to the results of the story is that we can tell an incredible difference in the mineral intake when they move from our farm here at home to another farm. And even from field to field, like a low-lying field where a lot of the minerals and nutrients have settled, they'll kind of eat, X number of pounds of mineral. And when they go up on a hilltop or move to one of these other farms or whatever, they're doubling their intake. You're going, oh, man, who are these cows? What's going on? And then they move back to our property, and boom, it just drops right back down to where it was before. So we definitely are seeing how when you have a very high mineralized soil with a high decomposition process, high fertility, organic matter, that we're noticing a lot less mineral intake.
You said you're all grass-fed on the beef side, right?
Correct.
And
yes.
How do you feed that mineral then?
We're feeding that just in a free choice box.
Okay.
Yeah, they're moving along with them,
Okay.
and then they can just self-medicate whenever they want. Yep.
And
exactly.
Is that one mix, or do you have like what they call the salad bar?
The salad bar, we have not done that one. I'm not against it. Seen lots of great results with that, but we just do about a three-way mix. We use the Fur Trail Company product, and we use kelp and salt. And we just mix that in a three-way and just put it out and let them take it. And like I say, what they don't need, they're going to pass. And that has really seemingly solved most of our issues with, heavy flies, pink eye.
I'm trying the Redmond garlic salt this year
Okay.
to see how it, because I've got 3 different herds that are combined right now, and I custom graze dairy heifers.
Okay.
And so the one farm fed garlic salt since New Year's because he wanted it throughout the system when they hit the pastures to see if there's a difference between those and the ones that just got garlic salt when they hit pasture as far as fly pressure.
Interesting.
And there's a difference in pink eye. Those heifers that had garlic salt all winter, not one of them has pink eye.
Wow. Yeah.
So now I'm also not just giving salt the credit because those heifers were in better condition when they hit the pastures than the others were too.
Right.
So, but it was kind of interesting. I was like, garlic salt's not that expensive. I'll try it for a year.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that too is just it would be interesting to do another test to see if it's actually the garlic salt or if it's just regular salt. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is that they're building up that high quality iodine in their system and the high quality minerals in their system. They've got a chance to fight it off. It's like, us saying, well, hey, I'm getting ready to go on a trip. I'm just going to pop some vitamin C on the way to the airport versus saying, hey, I'm going to have good gut health and good quality management for like a month or 2 months before I get there and build up my immune system.
Or all the time.
Or yes, exactly. Let's go. Yeah, let's do it all the time. Correct.
But I'm trying to season my steak with garlic salt prior to the
grill. You want pre-seasoned. I got you. Okay, well that'll be a new offering for somebody. I'll wait to see that. Start feeling oregano or thyme or something. Yeah.
I am going to try some of that Redmond garlic salt on a steak though.
Oh, it's really good.
I've never tried. 50-pound bag that lasts a while.
Just scoop it on up out of there. Yeah, that's right. We just really, it's really rewarding, I think, to see how every animal and soil and species can just really how intricately they're connected and how they play a part with each other. And I was talking today just at this conference about how weeds are just indicators. There's no such thing as a weed. It's an indicator of what the soil is able to do, what the soil needs, and things like that. And so just when you really look at that and you're looking at, okay, well, a cow's got pink eye. Well, what does that mean? When we look at this as indicators and telltale clues as to what's going on behind the scenes. We're not Dr. Doolittle. They don't talk to us. We can't understand. But we can see what they're telling us from a distance. And so to be able to look at that and not just go, oh, they're sick, they just need this quick treat all. But what is the root cause of this? Why are they continuing to have it? Is it 1 out of 100? Is it 50 out of 100? If it's 1 out of 100, it's probably just a genetic thing. Just that one's probably weak, and so you can call it and be done. If it's 20 out of 100, you've got some type of management issue, or you have a mineral deficiency, or you have things like that. And so to be able to look at those as just, I tell the stewards a lot. It's like most of my job. I feel like I'm sort of like a detective, and you're just trying to piece clues together to figure out. You're taking information from from science. You're pulling age-old wisdom from observation and farmers and old farmers and my parents and myself and my experience. And then you're trying to look at, okay, well, how does this animal actually act and treat itself in the wild? Like, what does it do? You know, you turn some cows into a place where there's some trees and some different vegetation. Well, the first thing they go eat is the walnut leaves. Well, the number one ingredient typically in wormers for animals and for people is walnut. And so it's a walnut tincture. That's what you take when you've got parasites, is a walnut tincture. Well, they know that. Like, so just giving the animals access to a different flora and fauna instead of just a monoculture of one species gives them so many different things. And as you said jokingly, pre-flavor your steak. But what it does is if an animal eats 20 species, all of the things that are in those 20 species are being transferred to you in the meat. If that animal eats 100 species, suddenly all the things that are in those 100 species are being transferred to me. Mm-hmm. Well, then that builds my immune health because I'm getting 100 species, not 20. And that's what we're seeing. And when you think about the average diet of a grain-finished animal, typically, they're eating like 3 species, right?
Corn, beans.
Yeah. Straw or hay.
Yeah, maybe some type of hay, but I'm saying, like, so when you're putting them out on this complete, as I said earlier, we're not worried about weeds on all of these different plants. And I have watched an animal, eat plants that the standard philosophy or the orthodoxy, if you will, would tell you that they won't eat ever, and they'll eat it down to the stalk at different and it'll be one animal, and you're like, wow, that animal really needed that plant for some reason. They needed that tincture. They needed that whatever.
I saw 2 different, it was stinging nettle.
Yep.
And thistle.
Yeah.
That I have in the one paddock. And when I turned them in, like half a dozen heifers went over there and just destroyed the nettle.
Yes.
The stinging nettle and the thistle. The Canada thistle.
That's right. What is that? Why?
And this year, for the first time, I've got some orchard grass that was in seed heads.
Sure.
As soon as I turned them in there, the whole herd just went through and just devoured.
Right.
I don't know. It's a different year because other years they would never do that. So I'm not sure, but they're missing something.
Sure.
But now it's up to me to try to, like you said, try to investigate this and try to figure it out.
Well, and the beautiful thing is sometimes we don't even have to. Mm-hmm. If we just give the animals the chance and we let the soil and the vegetation work itself out, they solve it themselves. Mm-hmm. And we don't. I think. For me, it's one of those things, the more you find out and the more you learn, the less we realize we actually know. And so I think in this particular case, it's just like, even the stewards will ask me at times, they're like, well, what about, I was like, I have no idea. I really don't, but they love it. So why don't argue with it? They know exactly what they need. Again, these animals have been here for thousands of years and didn't eat us. And so they're quite capable of solving their own problems if we just leave them to it.
But the picture in my head that always helps me is like a spider web. And conventional methodology is usually to pull one little string of that spider web out and we'll take care of that problem.
Right. Yep.
But the whole web is still there.
Yeah.
And that's more, like whether it's regenerative or organic or that type of farming is to let that spider web work. And do we need to tweak this string a little bit, or what happened here?
Yeah.
And it's a never-ending learning experience.
Sure.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it's never boring. You're right. Absolutely.
Because like just moving fence, okay? It all depends. Is it dry? Is it wet? You can't say, well, they go to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, on a 30-day or 60-day, whatever it is. I mean, just a simple little thing like weather can completely change.
Absolutely. And
all of a sudden, that field's going to be too wet. We've got to go up here. And it's, you learn so much by actually being in the pastures.
Right.
Just looking.
The number one questions I get on conferences and different things is, how quick can I come back to my grazed paddock, and how many paddocks do you have? Both of those questions are completely irrelevant. And, and I tell people, I was like, look, I'd love to answer that question for you, but I can't. It's too many variables. It's too many things that it can change. And so all I can do is give you principles as to how this works, why moving them every day is important, why, taking care of them in this way matters because of the way, back into that sage information of how do herbivores work, how do they particularly move and function in the wild in the past, and then trying to apply that on a smaller domesticated scale. And it's a very intricate dance, and it's one that's done by physical observation and by reconnaissance there in the pasture. Exactly.
So, and you're a very diverse farm.
Yes.
So is there a part of the farm, whether the beef or the chicken, that's your favorite?
I probably enjoy the beef the most. If I had to just do one job the rest of my life, it'd probably be like just sorting cattle in the corral. I enjoy the matrix of that. We do, of course, low stress handling, Temple Grandin, Bud Williams, that kind of stuff. And so we do really low stress pressure point movements. So nobody's yelling and hollering, and the cows aren't running and kicking and jumping over fences. And so it's a very intricate dance to realize that even someone as young as a very small child, when knowing what point to push in the cow and where to be and where to position yourself, can control a 1,500-pound animal as most powerful. It's the great equalizer as well. We work with a lot of diversos of sexes, men and women together, and to watch the balance of that. Strong doesn't help you. It actually hurts you a lot of times, because usually you're good at dominating or pushing or being in charge, if you will. But the people who are maybe a little smaller in stature, both male and female, that are good to understand, hey, I'm not going to force this 1,500-pound animal to do what I want it to do. I have to guide it to do what I want it to do. It's a great equalizer and a very empowering. It's probably some of the most empowering moments for the people who are questioning their ability, maybe questioning their stature, physical prowess, that kind of stuff. I'll be like, hey, come sort cows with me and watch what happens. And then it just suddenly puts them on the playing field of,
and boy, your personality and how you respond to when things go wrong will instantly reflect in those. Because if that one gets her head up and her tail up and she's ready and you spook her,
yes,
oh boy.
Yes, exactly.
Because things can go sideways so quick, but I tell you what, a calm demeanor.
Yes.
And if one gets by you, that's fine.
It's okay.
We'll go back and get her.
Go get it. That's right.
My 12-year-old has really good patience with 50 Jersey heifers in a corral with just polywire to get them there.
Right, sure.
And they can go over that polywire, through that polywire just like that.
That's right.
You just, calmly. And I was not like that 20 years ago. I can assure you. That comes with age, too.
That's right. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Take your time. It's beautiful. Yeah, good.
So one thing I want to go back to was just, the stewards, and I think it kind of ties into some of what we've been talking about here. Say I come to the program, I've gone through the screening process, have the ambition that you've kind of identified.
Right.
But I graduate from, I shouldn't go that far, but I have a desire that I am going to leave, and I have 100 acres, let's just say, that I want to go do something with. What are the core tenets that you are going to take away from going through the program?
Okay. I think a lot of it's a little like a boot camp type situation, in that we cannot simulate all of the problems that you're going to face. But what we are going to do is put you in situations where you have to lead, guide, and think for yourself. And so one of the biggest things that you're going to take away is the empowerment piece. You're going to say, well, man, I know that I can butcher, say, 50 meat chickens by myself because I was there and I had a team of 8 people and we did 600. So if I can do that, I can do this. If we can move and take care of 500 head of beef, I know I can take care of 10. So it's the empowerment piece. It's the I know I can do this because I saw it be done. I think we know that a lot of reasons people don't succeed is that mental challenge of I've never seen it done. I can't envision it happening. Great analogy of just the idea of the people that sit on the bench and just envision making the free throws. They don't actually shoot. And then when they go up, they actually make a higher percentage of the people who are actually there practicing. So just envisioning success and seeing it happening, going, okay, yeah, I know it'll happen. And that's kind of what we're doing on. So they're leaving with a set of skills both the hands-on and the mental knowledge to do the actual hands-on farming piece. That's true. But the bigger piece that we have when they're telling us, like, well, what mattered, and we're talking to them 2 or 3 years later, 5 years later, what was the biggest impact? It was that mental piece, and it was the connectional relationships that were made while there, both within their fellow team and then with the people who were coming by the farm or visiting, or connections they were able to make within that. And so the idea of being able to say, hey, I'm struggling with this issue, whether it be something agriculture related or something, I'm trying to set this website up. And I remember, one of my team members was great at web design, or, hey, I was at Polyface and they were using XYZ software. I'm going to call them back up and say, hey, where do I get this stuff? And those kind of connections, relationships are the biggest thing that they're going to take away, along with the confidence that, yes, I can do this. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. The concept, the idea of, I've had plenty of people say, thank you, Daniel, for teaching me this stuff. I learned so much, yada, yada. But the big takeaways where people are really meaningful and they, send you a card 6 months, a year later or whatever, it's, hey, thanks for the connections. Thanks for the empowerment. I didn't realize how much I was self-doubting myself, and I came there and now I don't. Those kind of things. That's what's really empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason I asked the question is just because, I worked on a farm. I work with farmers on a daily basis,
Sure.
But then I picture myself having these hypothetical 100 acres and knowing I need to go out and plow a field
Sure.
or plant some grass or whatever it is, and just saying, I don't even know where to start with
it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they have a lot of those, and they're very good at, too, just being able to say, well, I know what I can do, mm-hmm. and the other stuff's going to work itself out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And, I rent a farm, and when you're the one making all the decisions, I grew up on a farm. I work with farmers every day.
Sure.
I've learned more from being on different farms as far as, like, grazing stuff and cow lanes and, learn so much. But when you're out there and you're making the decisions, it's your money, that's self-doubt.
Right.
That self-doubt is really capable of making you start second-guessing. And it's like, nope, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work, then we'll fix it.
Yeah.
But I'm doing something. But I could see doing something like that would really help the self-doubt and really help the confidence of being able to do that. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you still, when it actually comes down to do it, the only way to get them through it or past it is to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the ways that we help with that is our next level of training. So 5 months is the first initial wave. And then out of that group, we take what's called an apprentice. And so we'll take anywhere from 2 to 4 out of that group if they're interested. They have to be interested first. And we'll select 2 to 4 people typically, just because that's what works with our staffing and housing and all that. And ditto with the 11. Why do I take 10 or 11? Well, because that's what we feel like a good teacher ratio is, blah, blah, blah. And so long story short, they will become an apprentice. They'll stay on for another 12 months. And part of that 12 months is then being that like middle level management team of the next year's steward program. So they'll help select, they'll help, or at least be part of the training process. They'll be part of the application process a little bit, just kind of being there and seeing it from a distance and being part of that. But then the main part is actually being boots on the ground. Hey, I'm going to take you, we're going to move the chicken shelter. We're going to go move the pigs. We're going to set up a paddock. We're going to do these things. Or we're going to build a barn or what have you, whatever project we've got going on. And so we stress to them a lot, like, just trust your training. They get into it and they're going, okay, wow, now I've been learning this. Some of them they've only been learning our Polyface way for a year. And some of them have only been learning agriculture as a whole for a year. And yet they're getting ready to be teaching people who may have a lot more experience than they do in some areas. And so we make it very clear, like, trust your training, don't panic. Like, they might have some good ideas, but trust what you know and go with it. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. Everybody comes home alive. We're happy. We're good. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to make adjustments afterwards. But the idea of we know that teaching something is by far and away the best way to make it stick in your brain. So you do it and then teach it. And if you teach it, you're never going to forget it. And so we try to apply that to those who are really serious about continuing their farming career, especially in our line of work. Some of them might want to go focused, as you were asked earlier, about specific animals and whatnot. And that would be something that they may not stay around with us. But if they're wanting to continue this whole multi-species, direct-to-consumer sales kind of business, then they stick with us. And they give that confidence level as they train the next set. And that's a kind of a full picture and a complete look at how everything works.
Mm-hmm. Have you had some real success stories of people that have gone through?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. I mean, some of them are still on staff with us. Some of them have gone out and done a great thing. I mean, there are people who are farming, quite literally raising way more chickens than us in numbers.
Oh, really?
that have come out of our program. You might not know their name because of maybe they haven't written some books or whatever, which is fine. But as far as actually production, there are people who have been producing more than us even as they've progressed in their agriculture. And like I said, or they're with us and are doing just wonderful things with a leadership point and other production style stuff. Yes. Yeah.
That's
great
got to
stories.
that has to be rewarding.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is a great joy to see, that kind of knowledge passed on. And I believe that one-on-one, like student teacher ratio, master mentor type relationship. So when I say master, I mean master of skill. Mentorship opportunities is still far and away the best way to learn anything. There's a few vocations where you need some significant book and study time. Most of them can be learned by an impassioned teacher. And, when you think back over education, I was homeschooled. And so I'm taking this as secondary information for most people. But even in my life, like I've had plenty of people who have come in and out of my life who were impassioned about something that I wasn't really excited about. But because they're so impassioned by it, you can't help but get excited. Mm-hmm. And we've all had those teachers in our lives that made something that you could care less about super interesting. And that's kind of what you're looking for. So when you find the exciting part about the steward and the apprentice program, in my opinion, I think it should be in so many other things. And there's a lot of trades that are going that way, and that's exciting to me. I think more and more vocations should do it. And that is that you've got the mentor and the student, because the student is not just someone who's slightly interested in it, they're super interested in it. And you put that together, and that is just magic. It is absolutely, I call it passion transfer, because you have youthful energy typically, and you have sage passion, and you put those together, and that passion transfer between the two of them, I mean, you put one and one together, and you get like 7,500. I mean, it's amazing. And the rejuvenation that the mentor gets from the energy and the student gets from the mentor, it's just really, really special. And it can happen in just about every vocation when you really think about it.
Just this one, I wouldn't recommend this as a for-profit farm, but just as an experiment. As you were talking there, having that sage, passioned mentor, and then back to this 4-year ag university college student, and pairing them up, mm-hmm. and seeing if you could show the way of the world, so to speak, and maybe change, the way we do things.
And it's just so, just the real life examples, especially in anything that's hands-on and physical, like farming or contracting or construction or plumbing or electric, all the trades. You just can't learn it in a book. You need to see it hands-on. And I was even talking with somebody in the medical field the other day. It's like, it's important to learn all this stuff and be able to quote off the parts of a kidney and all of it's made up and all the different things. But until you actually can get the clinical side and see here's what an inflamed one looks like, and here's how we're going to drain it off, and here's what all this stuff. That's when you really learn something. Otherwise, it's just theory. Mm-hmm. And so I think we've gotten so far away from that in our culture and teaching. They're just trying to cram your head full of a bunch of facts that we really don't get the information we need.
Mm-hmm. I think Mike Rowe has done an absolutely fantastic job of getting people back in the trades. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad to see, but the vocational schools are kind of looked down upon.
Yep.
And
it's like, that's cute.
Yeah, I mean, I did masonry for years, and you can watch somebody lay a block and a brick for years and years and years until you grab that trowel.
That's right.
You can't do it.
That's
I mean,
right.
it takes a long time to get good at it, and we'll never have too many mechanics. We'll never
Right.
have too many masons or construction work.
That's right.
And it's sad to me to see that the pride of physical labor is now looked down upon.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything that makes you feel better than after a long, hard day of physical work.
Absolutely.
Because your brain is tired too. So there's times when we have calls and we're on the computer all day long. You're mentally drained,
Yeah.
and your body's like, you didn't do anything today.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
you lay down and you're wide awake.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing in promoting agriculture, but I would love to see that same thing in all kinds of vocations, and for people to take pride in it again.
Yeah, that's one of our stewards made this comment, and it was just he came. We have a lot more like late 20s, early 30-somethings apply than you might think, because they've maybe had a vocation. They thought, we went to college, they got a job, I got to pay for college, and then they're like, this stinks. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sitting in a room and I'm in a cubicle and this is a drag, or whatever. They just have a change of heart or whatever. Or we have some military people, get put in 10 years of military service or whatever, and like, okay, I'm ready to do something else. So point, we have a lot more middle-aged or older than you might think applicants. And when they come, it's like we had a comment of one of them who was in the tech world and came to us. And he's like, I got to get out of here. And we had built a fence all day. We were just working on a fence. And he was, we were all hot and tired and sweaty and everything. And he just looked back. He's like, man, to be able to do something real. It's like I did spreadsheets and emails all my days, all this time. And I just sent them off. And it was great, but you just sent them off into the ether, and it was like, well, did that really do anything? You walk home, and your family says, well, hey, what'd you do today? Well, I finished a bunch of spreadsheets. Wow, okay, they're important probably to somebody, but you can't, see them, touch them, feel them. And that was even one of the things that really clued me in that I wanted to do this. As a teenager, I tried some different things to make sure that I wanted to do this. And I tried some construction, and it was really great. I learned a lot. I learned how to build houses. It was really cool. Did them for a couple of summers. But what I learned about that is I didn't want to do something and walk away from it. I wanted to be able to look out and enjoy it. And so I enjoyed working with my hands, but the idea of doing it and then walking away and never seeing it again was really unrewarding. The idea of building that fence and being able to look out the window and go, I see that fence. I built that fence. You can measure my effort, if you will, by that fence. And boy, what a difference that means to be able to touch it, see it, feel it with your hands. And so I've really tried to build that into my day. Sometimes I do in my level of work in the business now and age and whatnot, I'm starting to do a lot more office time and unfortunately, but I try to really make sure that every day, even if I say, okay, I'm going to be in the office all day, schedule a small little project at the end that I can just go outside and knock out, even if it's just mowing my own grass or, mulching a fruit tree or something. Be ready to do something so it's small and you can check it off the list, feel accomplished, look at it, see it, and make sure that it's there. And man, it just makes such a difference in people's lives.
And to take it a step further, there is no greater experience than not only the fence building, but then the what you're doing to build that fence is to keep a cow in or an animal in,
right,
that you are then going to eventually harvest and going to be on your table and consumed by you and the people you love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
There is nothing more rewarding
Yeah.
than putting that all together.
Amen.
I think we've said that so many times on this podcast about that meal that came from your land and your work, the fruits of your labor. People that aren't doing that, man, they're missing out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We had a good friend come through. We had the chef, right? So the way it works is we have our farm team and we eat the evening meal Monday through Friday together. And so we've made the commitment to the team. So both our families and close staff and the stewards and everybody that's there. It's about 25, 30 people or so. We can either work hard all day and then they have to go eat. And that takes a lot of prep time, and we all get stratified, and we don't actually get to see each other as much because we're all off doing different projects. or we as a business, we said, well, let's just hire some people call it a cook or a camp cook or whatever, but we went ahead and call it chef because we believe that's the level of, that's why we went to steward, you're right? We left the word intern because we believe steward, they have just as much empowerment to take care of the animals, take care of the land, be stewards as I do. So let's empower them with their words, right? So they're stewards. So we call her, this happens to be a young lady, so it's chef this year. And so we honor her with the word chef. But yeah, the opportunity so we were going through that with a friend of mine came by. And so we eat there Monday through Friday. If we as a family have some friends over, they just eat with us, right? That's just kind of the way we do it. And so they came from the city and whatnot, and we were going through the line, and she kind of stopped a little bit. She's like, wait a minute, you didn't go to the store for any of this. And I said, no, we just went down to the freezer and grabbed it, or we processed it earlier or whatever. She's like, wow, that's crazy to think about, and just realizing, and it's something I took for granted. It kind of was a good reminder of, this is stuff that I have right here. It was, walking around 3 days ago, maybe on some of it. And it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you raise anything? Do you have vegetables as well, or is it just animal agriculture?
We have a small vegetable garden for family use only. Okay. I'm a big proponent of just eating my vegetables secondhand, so I just have grass-finished beef and things like that.
I like that.
So I'm a very secondhand vegetarian, but no, greens are optional for me. But no, I eat enough to try to stay healthy. But anyway, we are just been all livestock people, so we grow very little vegetables, plants. We try to support some local CSAs, some local people who love doing it. We'll buy some different things from them, especially if we're wanting to can or store up stuff. We certainly have a nothing beats a good tomato right off the vine. Like, going and buying that even at a farmer's market, it's still not the same. Like, right off your own plant is the best. So, have those kind of things, this little strawberry bed, that kind of thing. But no large scale vegetable production. No, we're pretty much all livestock.
Do you raise any of the grain for your chickens?
We don't raise any of the grain we use for our omnivores, the chickens and the pigs. But we do use a local mill, who's right there in that area. We use GMO free. It's 100% GMO free mill. And we get the grain from as local as possible. A lot of it is produced in our county, right there in that area, and our mill sources it and brings it in. When they do have to go further afield, it's a couple 100 miles, et cetera, out, we're in Virginia, so, Pennsylvania, Ohio, that kind of thing. But it's nice that it's 100% GMO free organic mill. And we can use it that way, which is great. So, and honestly, we've talked to them about that, and we said, how could we try to close that loop a little better? And we're getting there, but they say we use about 100 acres of grain, and we produce well over 100 acres of good, high quality compost and natural fertilizers on the farm. So if the land was more suited to it, we're very rolling, very rocky. So it's just not suited for grain production in modern stints. Certainly you could do no-till and things like that. But we just use it from neighbors. And if they were close enough to put that compost back on, we certainly would. So we're working on closing that loop, and we're certainly the mill is working with making sure that they are using best practices, less tillage, less spray, more cover crops, all those things to try to move towards 100% organic if possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you did an excellent job of explaining what happens on Polyface Farms with the stewards and the apprentices, and I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. You're empowering people to get into agriculture, whether they have an ag background or not.
Right.
I think it's awesome to see people, like at the Homestead Festival, people taking the initiative to try to be more self-sufficient, raise their own food,
Yes.
live off the land, get back in touch with agriculture, or at least supporting somebody else who is
Yes.
locally. So really appreciate you taking the time.
My
really
pleasure, gentlemen. It's really great to work with this. And like I said, people need more information. They can reach out to our website, polyfacefarms.com. They can check out the Pastured Poultry Organization and go to getrealchicken.org and check out other pastured poultry operations in the area and check out that to learn more about pastured poultry. And yeah, we're just thrilled to be part of trying to encourage this self-sufficiency and not be so reliant on, systems that can break down very quickly and easily when little kinks get thrown into it. So it's exciting to be able to know that you have some food stored up, whether it be live or, on the shelf for yourself. Again, it's not about hoarding. It's about abundance. And that's what really this whole movement of homesteading is about. It's not about me and mine, but it's about abundance. And I think that however we can support that and express that and share that knowledge with people is really exciting. Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Have a great day.